Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Discovery Pod with Eve. I am Eve Richards. We've got a very exciting show today. But before we delve into our guest background, I'd like to welcome my co-host, Tess Broussard. Tess is an actress. She is a model. She's done it all. Tess, welcome back to another episode of the Discovery Pod.
Thank you so much for having me, Eve. So glad to be back.
Of course. So tell us what you've been working on. What have you been up to?
Right now, I'm working on being an empty nester, flying back and forth from here to Ann Arbor, where my daughter's going to school her freshman year at the Ross Business School. She just got into a business fraternity and has been busy with that last semester. And then this semester, she just got a bid for a sorority at Tri-Delt, which I'm so happy. And I'm flying there next week to go to Parents Weekend for their, welcome opening.
Wow, and isn't that a fantastic that our guest, Elan Divon, is a Harvard-educated speaker, author, which you're going to be doing the introduction in a few minutes.
Yes.
So that's fantastic that we get to speak to someone from such
a university.
Yes. So please go ahead and introduce our guest.
Oh, okay. Our first guest is Elan Divon, a Harvard-trained author, speaker, and founder of Divon Academy. It's also an educational platform dedicated to developing emotional fitness, resilience, and leadership capacity in individuals and organizations. His work focuses on helping people strengthen their inner skills, required to navigate pressure, uncertainty, rapid change with clarity and confidence. Fortune 500 companies use him. He's been endorsed by people like Deepak Chopra and NBA Commissioner Larry Tannenbaum, drawing from neurosciences and psychology and personal development. Elan bridges research-backed insight with practical, real-world applications. He's also the author of The Initiation and Reaching Beyond the Religious. So welcome, Elan. And Eve, would you like to start with the first question?
It's so good to have you with us today. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. It's great to be on the show.
And so just so out of curiosity, where are you calling us from today?
So I'm calling you from San Diego, California.
Wonderful. So I'll start with the first question. When someone meets you for the first time and asks you to describe what you do, how do you usually explain your work in a simple and accurate way? I mean,
I know, you know what? I trust me, I have. It's not easy.
You seem a bit complex.
Tell me about it. Yeah, no, it's a lot of different things. To simplify what I do and what I'm passionate about, it's taking ancient wisdom about how to live a better life and combining it with science and proven science and psychology in creating tools and programs and courses that help people in the here and now just live in this crazy age of AI and disruption that we're all living in. So I help people, on a very practical level, from helping people land jobs and launch careers and lead teams. I help them kind of navigate this crazy age, figure out their center, their core, and develop skills that really help them succeed professionally, personally, in their personal life, which translate also into their romantic life, their relationships, in every aspect of life. I think it all comes down to some basic skills that I try to teach by, again, drawing upon ancient stuff and modern science.
Wow, thank you for breaking it down. I think I have a much better understanding now.
Well, I have a question. What do you mean when you talk about ancient wisdom? What is that exactly?
Well, you can think about wisdom as, we have wisdom in all these ancient traditions, from the Bible, from Buddhism, from Hinduism, from Christianity, from all religions. There's wisdom, and wisdom is kind of like science. When we talk about science, you don't say, oh, there's Eastern science and there's Western science. Like science is science, like math is math. Wisdom is wisdom, and wisdom is basically based on human experience. So think about thousands of years of human experience, of humans observing the world, observing the cosmos, observing life, and coming to conclusions, seeing patterns that tell us the story of how humans act, how we operate, how we thrive, how we can live a better life. So you can think of wisdom as just thousands of years of collective human experience and that's gathered into short, condensed into short bits of wisdom that can help us live better today.
That's fantastic. So you work with individuals, young people, organizations. How does your work help people handle pressure, responsibility, or change more effectively?
Well, it's depending on the audience. I work again with Fortune 500 companies to graduates and young job seekers. It really depends on the audience. However, I think at the core, it's teaching individuals very basic skills around self mastery, and self mastery is a big word, but really how to manage. All we're doing in life, Eve, when you think about it, is all we have is our time and our energy. You have your podcast, you're doing all these amazing things in the world, and you have your time and the energy you put out. And to be able to maximize the energy we put out, we want to first help people figure out their purpose. So where do they want to focus their energy long term? What is the arc in which they're focusing their energy and their time? But also to be able to focus your energy in a better way, how do I manage my mind? So when we talk about mindset basically means the quality of your own communication with yourself. So how do you talk to yourself? How do you talk to yourself internally when things aren't going so well? When you fall, when you fail, when you fall on your face and you stumble, what's your internal dialogue? So that's your mindset. So I teach people how to manage that, how to manage their heart set, which is when emotions get rough, when things are uncertain, when you lose a job, when you have a falling out in a relationship. How do you respond? How do you manage your emotions? Because all of that's important to managing our energy and our time and being able to focus it in a more constructive way. So all leadership, all personal development, all professional development really comes down to how do I manage my mental, emotional, physical, spiritual capacities and energy.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
Very fascinating. Like, oh my goodness.
Did you graduate did you graduate from both Harvard and Brandeis University and
Yes.
get your master's there? Wow,
Yes.
that's incredible.
Pretty
Did
incredible.
did you
Thank
get a
you.
job like right after, or was it hard to find a job even though you had those credentials? And what made you like come up with Divon Academy? How did you come up with that?
Great question. Well, thank you for that. So when I graduated, I like a lot of young people, and I went to a good school, obviously Harvard, great school, did really well, and I thought, you know what, it's going to be a breeze getting a job. And so I didn't really think about it too much before graduation. And I happened to graduate from my second master's at Harvard. This was 2007, so just during the beginning of the Great Recession. It started at the end of 2007, beginning of 2008. So the economy was not in a good place. Companies weren't hiring, and I wasn't getting hired. So in my mind, I actually thought I moved to San Diego from Boston, and my plan was I'm going to be the Jewish Deepak Chopra. I'm going to
I
write
love
books.
that.
I'm
Sorry.
gonna, yeah, no,
That's
exactly.
funny.
Yeah, how naive, right? It was very naive on my heart. It was very naive and romantic in a way. I thought, yeah, I'm going to move out here and I'm going to coach people. I'm going to write books. I'm going to teach. And I had no clue about how the world operated, how business operates, how about myself even. I had all the raw materials. I had sort of the ancient wisdom and the education, but I didn't know how to package it into tools and programs and business ideas that could then be sold and marketed and absorbed by people in the real world. So came in very naive, was unemployed for actually, scraping by, working minimum wage jobs initially. And I finally got a break because I also had got married at the time to a lady that was from in Boston, but from Toronto. So I ended up moving back to Toronto, got a job offer there out of all places, not in what I wanted to do at the time, but in fundraising. And actually, my work in fundraising and development helped me learn a lot. I kind of had a real stage in a way, like a real, 7, 8 years of just learning the ins and outs of the business world and the nonprofit world. And I was able to take all of that knowledge of how things actually work in the world and then bring it to launching Divon Academy, which was my way of combining my passion for this ancient wisdom and helping people with it to make it very practical. And so that's when I started, I realized there was a real problem in the marketplace where you have a lot of young graduates graduating today as they did, 5, 6, 7 years ago, but without the skills that companies want. So what we have today is AI is taking on a lot of entry-level positions, and it's doing all the tasks that require automation, right? So what companies really need are young people that have what's called soft skills or human skills, like communication and collaboration, and people that can manage stress and uncertainty and think creatively and all that kind of stuff. Now, those skills, unfortunately, are actually diminished in next generation, because if you're growing up with a screen, you're not exercising those skills. So, like, think about dating. I always bring up the analogy of dating. In the past, I remember this, right? Growing up in the 80s and the 90s, if I wanted to date somebody, I had to approach them in a public place, in a bar, or in a restaurant, whatever it was, face that tension, have an awkward conversation, probably get rejected, then go back, work on my personality.
It was really hard back then.
You remember those days before dating apps. And then, so I had to kind of develop my soft skills. And today, if you're a young person, you just got to swipe. So you don't have to deal with the tension. You don't have to deal with the awkward conversation. You just swipe left, swipe right, and you can get yourself dates this way. So what I started to realize is that young people are lacking in the skills that are now most needed in the marketplace. And that's why I launched Divon Academy.
Wow, I think that's fantastic.
So impressive.
Very, very impressive. So you touched on a little bit about AI, and obviously AI is disrupting the world today. As technology and AI continue to move quickly, what do you think people need to strengthen, to stay, focused and effective, as you mentioned, in the real world, with young people graduating from? It's a very, very challenging time with AI, but I think it's also fascinating to see.
Yes, no, you're absolutely right, Eve. This is, the most unprecedented time in human history, where the rate of change, certainly in technology, is faster than our ability to adapt to it as a species, like psychologically and emotionally. We can't even adapt to it. AI is, I have a keynote I'm giving, which is called The AI Tsunami is Here, how to, land a job when the old rules don't work anymore and the old playbook is broken. And what's happening is that, I guess, to your question, the skills that you need today are, you need to learn how to work with AI, that's for sure. So you got to be sort of tech savvy. However, what companies are looking for are, again, those human skills. So the only way to stand out, because still humans are making the hiring decisions ultimately, and you got to collaborate with humans who have emotions. So the key is communication skills, interpersonal skills, knowing how to connect with someone and develop rapport and ask good questions and have presence. I think because we're all so distracted today, we're facing a crisis of intimacy. People are craving or starving for intimacy, whether it's personal, romantic, or just in general, right? Because we're always so distracted. We're always with our phones. We always got something to do. And so if you can set yourself apart and show up with real presence of mind and heart, and communicate effectively and align with your purpose and speak with passion, you're going to be ahead of the game. And it's really simple stuff, but it needs to be taught today because we're all really behind. I ask young people, I go into universities and MBA programs, and ask students, what's the biggest commodity today? What's the most precious thing that human beings are trading in? So what would you say?
Wow. I think you just named it. I think you just said it. I think, as you said, communication to me, because I think we're so used to the phones and, it's that human skills, right? It's missing.
They're like mutes.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I want to ask you a question going back to fundraising. You said you had many years raising money for your ventures. What did you learn from fundraising? Because you said something about fundraising and you applied that to your Divon Academy. What did you find like most interesting about it? And secondly, how did you get people to give you money? Because nowadays it's so hard for people to give money.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
telling you, it's like,
It is.
give it to me. No, no, give it to me. No,
Yeah.
no. So yeah, I'd like to hear about that.
It's a great question. So what did I learn first, I guess, and take then to Divon Academy? So I learned that people don't give to organizations, people give to people. In other words, they're going to give to the organization because they develop trust with me as a extension of as a representative of the organization. We have trust, we have a connection, and therefore they're going to give to the organization because they have a connection with me. And that's the case with all fundraising. It's all based on relationship. And all business is based on relationship. I mean, there's so many studies that show, for example, that if someone is, I think, if you're likable, then if somebody likes you, they're 6 times more likely to buy what you're selling if they like you. Irrespective of the quality of the product, obviously the product or the service has to have some value and something they're looking for, but they're going to 6 times more inclined to buy it if they like you. So likability in sales and relationships, it's so important to business. I'm sure you both know that from everything you do. And so I learned that firsthand, that you got to first, and when developing relationships, the catch with it is you have to come to someone without any agenda. Like, real relationships are built when you want to provide value, when you're curious about the other person, you genuinely want to learn about them, ask questions. Because when someone feels that they're valued and appreciated, then they're going to value and appreciate you. But they have to first feel like you value and appreciate them. And so that was really one of the big takeaways. I just saw that and learned that firsthand, and then brought that to Divon Academy. To your second question, I guess this connects to how was able to get people to make big donations, 6-7 figure donations, and contribute to big projects. So a lot of it is aligning. I think there's philanthropy and there's charity. So charity, a lot of times, is you feel, you see someone that's, for example, you see something that irks you emotionally, you see someone that's homeless or struggling, and you give because it's you want to give charity. Philanthropy is a little bit different. When you approach a philanthropist, someone that's giving a major gift, like $1 million gift, multi-million-dollar gift, now you got to align with their philanthropic vision and the kind of impact they want to have and the legacy they want to have in the world. So you want to understand the person really well that you're talking to, understand what their philanthropic vision is, what the legacy they want to leave is, and then find some alignment between your cause and your goal and their legacy. And when you can do that and you can build connection, now they're willing to talk.
Wow. So,
Interesting.
the one takeaway that I learned from someone who I spoke to, and he was actually a Harvard grad. I always had this perception that, because you're graduating from an Ivy League college, it's a lot easier for you to sort of go into the workforce, and you find the opportunities are easier for someone coming from an Ivy League school. And you just said it's usually not the case. Obviously, you work with a lot of people who are usually very successful. Now, for a lot of new college graduates, as we mentioned, because of AI, do you think this is a course that maybe institutions need to incorporate to help young people, especially in today's age with AI and technology sort of taking over our lives in a good way? So what are your thoughts?
Yes, no, I truly believe, and we're actually work with universities, and they really do need to start incorporating these types of programs. Many are trying to do that. The challenge with universities, they're kind of like aircraft carriers. So for them to turn to make a change, it takes time because it's such a big operation. There's so much bureaucracy. The problem that universities and higher ed is facing, they understand that these problems are real. They understand that they need to prepare students for the workforce. However, they tend to move quite slowly, and the problem is the workforce is not waiting. So technology, to give you an analogy, technology like AI is moving at light speed. It's moving super fast. The workforce is trying to catch up. It's moving at the speed of sound, at sound speed. And the education system is driving a car like a pickup truck trying to catch up with the two. It's never going to catch up. So I'm really trying to bridge that gap and offer universities our programs. Now we have a new company called Elevate Youth Solutions, which is really just gearing towards universities and students and helping them improve their what's called their career outcomes for students, so helping their students get better, get jobs faster and get better jobs. So to answer your question, universities definitely understand there's a problem. They're trying to adapt, but it's not happening fast enough because technology, like you could technically study something in university today as a freshman that becomes redundant by the time you're a senior because the technology has changed. So the whole system isn't geared to dealing with the pace of change that we're seeing in the workforce and in technology. And so that's a problem. Yeah.
Talk to me about your soft skills. You had mentioned that before. How do you teach that? How do you approach that with your students at Divon Academy?
So soft skills, how do we approach it? Well, we kind of approach it bit by bit, and it's all integrated. So we'll talk about mindset. We'll talk about a lot about emotions, and first of all, understanding emotions, how to manage your own emotions before you can then try to connect with and build relationships or manage conflict. But the only way you learn these sorts of soft skills is by applying them.
So do you
So
role
I
play?
always tell people.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry?
I'm sorry. I was going to say, do you role play with them?
Yes. So we do have role play, and we have them do exercise where they'll sort of play out a scenario, an office scenario or a boardroom scenario, for example. So we'll have a lot of that. And the key really is to really practice and develop habits ultimately, because I always tell students and professionals, knowledge is not power. Knowledge is only power and potential, right? Common sense is not common practice. So all of us, we woke up this morning, and I'm sure you knew that drinking a green smoothie and meditating for an hour and yoga for an hour and maybe eating goji berries and walnuts and all that good stuff would be good for you, right?
Yes.
But the chances of you doing it, though, are probably, I imagine you didn't do it this morning, and I didn't do it either, although I knew it was the right thing to do. So the fact that we have the knowledge is not what matters. It's taking action on the knowledge. And so that's where we try to focus people, and we get them into groups to exercise habits around building these skills, because if you don't do this daily and you don't step into it and push into it, it's just not going to happen.
So tell us about your two books, The Initiation, and is it The Healing Beyond the Religion?
Reaching Beyond the Religious.
Beyond
that one I published back in 2010. And the day after I published that one, I started writing The Initiation, which was just published and brought out in October, launched in October. And I'm really passionate about The Initiation. And it's a book that kind of synthesizes everything I've learned in one book. And it looks at a process. There's a process I found through which human potential unfolds and evolves. And this process is called an initiation. So are you all familiar with like the law of attraction and manifestation?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Cool. Is there anyone in particular you follow around that, or you like to listen to?
No, not me. Do you?
Isn't that The Secrets, or isn't that the book of secrets?
Yeah, that's The Secret. Rhonda Byrne wrote The Secret. So the law of attraction basically says, like attracts like, and, if you visualize, your positive thinking and visualization will help attract good stuff. And
it doesn't work for me.
The law is. Sorry?
I said it doesn't work for me.
Oh, there you go. It doesn't work for most people. I'm not surprised, because there's a lot of things that those laws don't explain. And I try to explain in The Initiation, which is you can't manifest whatever you want. To say that I can manifest now, I want to be an astronaut, or I want to, you can't manifest what you want. You can only manifest who and what you are. And the challenge is finding out who you are, because there has to be coherence between who you are and what you do and what you want to manifest. So as great as a mind you may have, as much as you may visualize and put up vision boards and all that stuff, if it's not aligned with your core and who you are, you can't manifest it. So you can only manifest who you are. And so to find out who you are, and really at the core, you have to go through what I call an initiation, which is a process that separates you from all the things you're not, from people, places, powers, and ideas that define you. Because think about it, all the people that define you in a way, and all the things that might define you also confine you. And we're all living on basically on autopilot, because think about it, when we were born until the age of 7, our brain didn't have an operating system, right? It didn't know how to understand reality. So what do? We downloaded the operating system of our parents and our teachers and all the people around us in our culture. That became the lens through which we see the world. And then we forget that we downloaded somebody else's operating system, and we're seeing the world through their eyes. And there's a saying that the greatest influence on the child is the unlived life of the parent, meaning the fears and dreams of our parents tend to get projected onto us out of love, of course. But it's their dreams and their fears, it's their experience, not ours. So our job in life is to kind of peel away all of that conditioning that we took on as a kid, so we can see the world and ourselves more clearly, align with who we are, and then manifest.
Wow.
Does that make sense?
That it does make sense. I'm curious, just listening to you, just a question that comes to mind is, when you were growing up as a very young person, how did you have mentors, and how did you get into this? I mean, it's fascinating to hear what you do and you explaining it, but I think I'm curious to understand how you really got into this industry.
Well, there were a lot of things. I think I've had a pretty unconventional life. My father was a diplomat, so I grew up in India and Sri Lanka and Ethiopia and Canada and all over the world, and Israel. So that's part of it, I suppose, although not on a conscious level. It's not because I lived in all these places that I said, oh, now I'm interested. Probably subconsciously, there's something to it. What kind of shook me up is I had an experience. I won't get too deep into it because it's a longer story. Perhaps on another episode, I can share the full story. But I had, when I was 20, I survived a bombing experience that nearly took my life.
I was going to ask you about that. Yes.
Yeah.
Wow.
Must have been so scary.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, that was a surreal and scary experience. It was a triple sort of suicide bombing situation that was narrowly escaped it, thanks to just a twist of fate and just good luck. And that just got me thinking very deeply about my own purpose and understanding that life is very fragile. Life can be taken from you like that. We especially when you're young, you don't seem to you don't realize that, but it can happen. And that, in a way, got me onto this journey of thinking more deeply about life, about why we're here, why I'm here, and the deeper questions.
Wow.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing, and what a profound experience to, for you to share something when you were 20. I'm grateful that you're here with us and you could share that experience, and you turned that into something meaningful to inspire the world.
Right.
Thank you.
I have a question going back to your book on the initiation. It supposedly flips the script on pop spirituality. I guess, would that be the book, The Secret, because of the laws of attraction and manifestation? It challenges that book. So you're arguing true transformation starts in darkness, misalignment, and sacred separations. So what personal story from your life inspired this core message? Was it the bombing in Jerusalem or what?
I think what inspired this core message is I lived the initiations I then wrote about, but then I learned that all of the greats throughout history, like real greats, icons, whether they're religious mythological figures like Moses and Jesus and Buddha, to modern day icons like MLK and Mother Teresa and the Oprahs of the world and Dwayne Johnsons and all these people, presidents and etc., Obama and Clinton and Mandela and all these iconic leaders went through a similar process of separating from forces defining forces in their life to find their own selves. And so that's what got me to see these patterns. And I noticed that there's these three key things we all have to separate from. And that's what I write about in the book. And I can give you one of those three things. I won't give you all three. I can give you one of them. So I don't give it all to your listeners.
Because you want us to read the book.
Of course.
Exactly. But, the toughest thing to separate from, and we kind of talked about it before, is our parents. Because our parents are our creators, right? They're like the sun and the moon. They were made in their image. And so all our life we grow up, many of us thinking that our dreams are, which are really sometimes theirs, the way we think it's influenced by them. So we're living in a way, a lot of people will live not even knowing, heavily influenced by what their parents want or wish or fear or dream. And it's interesting that all the icons of the world that have really found that they're kind of real originals that found their spark and left their mark on the world, either lost, left, or separated from a parent at a young age, and it forced them to figure out who they are.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That is so
No, I'm not saying, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's profound stuff.
That's amazing. So when you reflect on the idea of legacy, what matters more to you? And what, when you think about, building or how people think and act differently, because, like what really matters to you when you think about your legacy?
What matters to me when thinking about my legacy, and it's still so much work to be done, but what I'd like my legacy to be is to leave systems, leave things behind that can help people change, that has no bearings or dependence on me. So I want to be able to leave behind structures, whether it's the companies, business, books, publications, movies, films, anything that can help people transform and benefit from this wisdom long after I'm gone without any connection to me.
Wow. That's a twofold. So I'm going to ask you then, so what's next for you? I mean, you seem like you're so busy speaking engagements and all of that. You're working with Fortune 500s. What's next for you?
Let's make a film, Eve. Let's make a
I love
that
it.
sounds great.
Did you hear, Roger? We've got someone here who wants to make a film. Okay.
There we go. Let's do it. Yeah, you know what? I think one of the things definitely that I'd like to do is to take many of the ideas in the initiation, put it into like a documentary. Could be a Netflix miniseries or its own little standalone documentary. But I think that's something I'm keen on.
Roger Roger does producing as well. He's a producer. He's an executive producer. So that's someone he does it all. So
maybe you should connect with him.
I have to connect with Roger.
Yeah.
He's behind the camera, but he does it all. So that's fantastic.
Yeah. Any other more books in the horizons that you're wanting to write? Are you working on something?
Yes, it's actually a book that I'm working on now. I'll give you a little sneak peek. It's kind of a guide, Gen Z guide to navigating work life and the workforce, essentially, and their lives. So working on that, and I plan to get that, all being well, that'll come out next fall, this coming fall, summer.
So that's a good segue into this question. A lot of organizations are focused on supporting and retaining young talent. From your perspective, what helps people feel engaged, steady, and able to grow over time?
Great question. I think what gets people to feel that is first and foremost appreciation and being valued by their managers and by their places of employment. People don't leave their jobs because they don't get enough money, although money is very important. The number one reason people leave their jobs is because they're not appreciated, valued by their employers, or they don't get along with their boss or their team.
That's a good reason.
So, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is incredible. I see Roger standing with the 3-minute mark. Oh my goodness, Elan, this has been such an amazing conversation. I mean, the last question that I would ask is, if you were to have dinner with 3 people, dead or alive, who would it be and why?
Dinner with 3 people. I would go with Joseph Campbell, who he wrote The Hero's Journey. He was a very influential figure he actually helped. He was the guy that helped George Lucas create Star Wars. He brought all the ideas from ancient mythology into Star Wars. So Joseph Campbell, um, Moses would be cool.
I like that one. That's the
Moses.
first.
And a third person, Muhammad Ali.
Oh, those are fantastic.
Ah.
Elan, thank you for sharing your perspective today. This conversation reinforces that leadership is defined by urgency and more by intention, responsibility, and the ability to think long term in a short term world. It's been amazing having you with us today. Tess,
Thank you.
it's been a
been
great
fun.
conversation, very
Yes, so
enlightening.
Thank
fun.
you so much.
Thank you,
Glad
Roger.
I really appreciate it. I wish I was there with you in
Of
studio.
course, Roger,
Yes,
thank
indeed,
you
but
for
next time.
producing Archer back there. Thank you as well. Tess, thank you for co-hosting.
Thank
Again,
you.
Elan, thank you so much for being here
Nice
with us.
meeting you, Elan.
Ladies and gentlemen,
meeting
please
you.
remember to watch this very inspirational episode on the Discovery Pod with Eve's YouTube channel, or you can listen to us on any of the podcast platforms. Again, stop by next Thursday at 12 p.m. Pacific time. You never know who's going to stop by. Again, Elan, this has been such an amazing conversation with you, extremely enlightening. Thank you for being with us and have a great rest of the day.
So much. Thank you so much.
Thank you.